Putin lost control in the early hours of May 24, 2026 and put Kyiv under one of the heaviest offensives of the war. Launching about 600 drones, 90 missiles, and using the Oreshnik against Bila Tserkva in the region of the Ukrainian capital, a hypersonic weapon with nuclear capability that Moscow now used as a message of political terror, even without a nuclear warhead. The attack killed civilians, injured dozens, hit residential buildings, schools, a market, water supply infrastructure, and exposed what the Kremlin tries to hide with its military rhetoric. Putin is escalating because he wants to break Ukraine through fear and test how far Europe and its allies are willing to go in response. What did Putin really want to achieve by using an apocalyptic weapon near Kyiv? Why did Moscow choose this moment to escalate the war? How will Ukraine and the West respond now? I'll tell you all about it in a moment, but right now, you'll want to be subscribed to the channel to stay well informed. Real-time information with the best journalistic quality ever seen. Milson Alves, the benchmark for credibility. Russia launched one of the largest air offensives against Kyiv since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. There were 90 missiles of various types, 36 of them ballistic. In addition, 600 drones. The Ukrainian capital was the main target. Residential buildings were damaged, schools were hit, the market caught fire, water supply facilities were targeted, and cultural areas were also affected. The attack left people dead and injured dozens, with Ukrainian authorities reporting at least 83 wounded since midnight. The name that caused the biggest shock was Oreshnik. This Russian missile made headlines because it is not an ordinary weapon. It has hypersonic capability, can carry conventional or nuclear warheads, and spread submunitions over the target. Russia did not use a nuclear warhead in this attack, but made a point of deploying a weapon that also serves as a political message. Putin didn't just strike a city, he showed that he is willing to use coercive weaponry as psychological pressure to intimidate Kyiv, Washington, and the European capitals. Bila Tserkva became one of the symbols of this new phase. The city is located in the Kyiv region and was mentioned by Ukrainian authorities as a place hit by Oreshnik. Images analyzed by experts indicated the separation of the payload into several parts before impact, which reinforces the weapon's saturation effect. In practice, Moscow used a high-impact missile to increase fear, create a sense of vulnerability, and expose the difficulty of intercepting this type of attack. Kyiv was battered for hours. The offensive came at dawn, at a time when families were at home, residents were running to shelters, and emergency teams were preparing for a long rescue operation. The Russian objective was not just to destroy structures, it was to shock the public. When an offensive combines drones, ballistic missiles, and a weapon like the Oreshnik, the intention is to overwhelm air defenses, exhaust Ukrainian teams, and convey the image that Putin can still escalate the war when he feels pressured. Zelensky responded by demanding consequences for Russia. The Ukrainian president stated that Ukraine cannot be left alone and called for decisions from the United States, Europe, and other allied nations. The main demand now is for air defense, especially systems capable of countering ballistic missiles. Ukraine knows that drones can be shot down in large numbers, but missiles of this type require more advanced technology, faster response, and constant external support. Putin tries to sell this attack as a military response. But the real effect falls on cities, buildings, schools, markets, and basic infrastructure. Moscow's rhetoric talks about military targets. The images and reports coming from Ukraine show residents, firefighters, rescue teams, broken glass, fires, and damage in urban areas. The use of Oreshnik also shows Putin increasingly relying on intimidation. Russia is not just attacking front lines. It is trying to turn the Ukrainian rear into a space of constant fear. By targeting Kyiv and the surrounding region, Moscow strikes at the political center of the Ukrainian government. It puts pressure on the population and tries to send a warning to the allies. Any greater support for Ukraine could be met with escalation. The international response began with strong condemnations. European leaders treated the use of Oreshnik as a dangerous escalation. The European Union classified the action as a form of nuclear blackmail and political pressure. The sensitive point is that the missile has nuclear capability even when used with a conventional warhead. This allows Putin to vie with the fear threshold without formally crossing the nuclear threshold. He doesn't need to detonate a nuclear weapon to exploit the panic that this kind of armament brings. Ukraine is now working on two fronts. The first is to save lives, put out fires, remove debris, and keep basic services running after the attack. The second is political. To convince allies that air defense needs to arrive faster and in greater quantity. Kyiv doesn't just want statements of support. They want systems capable of preventing the next Oreshnik, the next ballistic missile, or the next wave of drones from reaching the neighborhoods of the capital. The attack also serves as a test for the West. Putin watches every reaction. If the response is weak, Moscow understands it can repeat it. If there is more air defense, more sanctions, and more strategic pressure, the cost of escalation will increase. This is the cold calculation behind the offensive. Russia uses the weapon, measures the shock, watches the reaction, and decides whether it's worth taking another step. The problem for Putin is that this kind of attack can also speed up what he is trying to avoid. The more Moscow bets on shock weapons against urban areas, the greater the pressure to reinforce Kyiv. The use of the Oreshnik doesn't just scare Ukraine. It raises an alert in governments that know Russia is using the war as a showcase to test intimidation, military technology, and strategic blackmail in front of the world. The May 24 offensive exposed a war that is entering an even more dangerous phase. Putin put a weapon on the field that carries both military and psychological value. He tried to show strength, but also revealed political lack of control. When a leader needs to resort to a weapon called apocalyptic to strike a city already battered, the message is not just about power. It's about pressure, attrition, and an attempt to break the opponent through fear. The war continues with a new and dangerous element. Russia has shown that it can use the Oreshnik again whenever it wants to increase the political impact of an offensive. Ukraine will try to turn this shock into more military support. Putin will try to turn fear into an advantage. I'm Milson Alves, an international affairs specialist, and my purpose is to keep you well informed with the truth every day. The news links are in the video description. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and at the end, check out the comments so you can be even more engaged with the Milson Alves community.